So are you working in the UAE or maybe thinking about making the move? If so, you're in the right place. The rules of the game have seen some big updates, and honestly, knowing your rights has never been more crucial. We're going to break down everything you need to know so you can feel confident about where you stand. Now, you might see dates like 2026 and get a bit confused, but here's a quick clarification. The major updates we're diving into today actually came into effect back in 2022. Our goal here is simple: to cut through all the confusing legal jargon and give you the straight-up facts you need to feel secure in your job. Here's our game plan. We'll start with your contract, the really important stuff. Then we'll walk through the probation period, all your leave entitlements, and the official rules on permits and notice periods. And we'll wrap it all up with a quick summary. So let's get right into it.
All right, let's kick things off with the big one, your employment contract. Seriously, you have to think of this as the absolute bedrock of your entire professional life here in the UAE. Pretty much every right and every responsibility we're going to talk about today grows from what's in this document. This is one of the biggest changes to be aware of. All private sector contracts are now fixed term. That means they have a specific end date, usually up to 3 years. But hey, don't panic. It doesn't mean you're automatically out of a job then. These contracts can be renewed. It just creates a clear moment for you and your employer to review things. So what about your hours? The standard is 8 hours a day, or 48 hours a week. Of course, during Ramadan, that workday gets shorter by 2 hours. And here's something that's absolutely crucial. You are legally guaranteed at least one paid day off per week. That's not a suggestion, it's the law. Okay, next up, the probation period. It's so important to get your head around this because your first few months at a new job are basically a trial phase. And it has its own very specific set of rules that are different from the rest of your time there. First thing you need to know, how long can it last? The law is crystal clear on this. Your probation period cannot be longer than 6 months. That's a hard limit, not just a guideline. No extensions. It gives you a clear finish line to becoming a fully confirmed employee. Now, the notice periods during probation are interesting. If your employer lets you go, they have to give you 14 days notice. Simple. But if you resign, it depends on what you do next. If you're leaving the UAE entirely, it's 14 days notice. But if you're just switching to another job within the UAE, you need to give 30 days. That's a huge difference, so make sure you remember it. Okay, here's a heads up on something that trips a lot of people up. During your probation, you're not automatically entitled to any paid annual leave or sick leave. Now, your employer can absolutely offer it, and many do, but the law doesn't force them to. So what's the lesson here? Check your contract carefully to see what your company's policy is. All right, so you've passed your probation. Fantastic. This is where the game really changes. Now we get to talk about one of the best parts of the job, your legally protected time off. And let me be clear, these are not just company perks. These are your fundamental rights as an employee. And here is the magic number you'll want to circle in your mind: 30. After your first year on the job, you are entitled to a full 30 days of paid annual leave. That's your time to disconnect, go on vacation, and recharge your batteries. But what happens if you get sick? We all do, right? Well, the law provides a really solid safety net. You can take up to 90 days of sick leave in a year. For the first 15 days, you get your full salary. For the next 30, you get half pay. And any 6 days after that are unpaid. It's a system designed to support you when you really need it. And of course, the law knows that life happens. For new mothers, there's 60 days of maternity leave. New fathers get 5 days of paternity leave. And if you're dealing with the loss of a close family member, you're also entitled to between 3 and 5 days of bereavement leave to grieve. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about the official stuff, the paperwork and procedures. This is all about the permits you need and the formal rules for when your employment comes to an end, for whatever reason. Think of it as the official rulebook. Your work permit. This is, without a doubt, the most important document for your legal status as an employee. It's issued by the ministry, and it's tied directly to your company's sponsorship. Let's put it this way. Without a valid work permit, you cannot legally work in the UAE. End of story. Once you're out of probation, your notice period is anywhere from 30 to 90 days. That applies whether you resign or your company lets you go. So which is it for you? When it's time to leave a job, it's a simple 3-step process. First, you provide your notice in writing. Second, you work through that contractual notice period. And third, you get your final payment. Now pay close attention to that last step. Your employer is legally required to pay you everything you're owed within 14 days of your last day of work.
Whew, okay, we have covered a lot of ground here, right? From your very first day all the way to your last. So let's just take a moment to boil it all down into the most essential points, the stuff you absolutely need to remember.
So, what are the big takeaways? First, your contract is a fixed-term legal document. Know it inside and out. Second, probation is a unique phase with its own rules, especially about notice. Third, remember that your leave is a right, not a bonus. Fourth, work permits and notice periods aren't optional, they're mandatory. And finally, the golden rule for all of this: get everything, and I mean everything, in writing.
I want to end on this one really powerful point that sums it all up. Your employer must provide you with a written contract, and they must pay all of your final dues within 14 days of your last day. These aren't just suggestions, they are legally enforceable rights that you have. So, we've walked through the whole framework. You now have the knowledge, which brings us to one final, really important question that's just for you. Now that you know exactly what your rights are, what are you going to do to make sure they're protected?